Chapter 85. Philandering. Riel was very cheerful at work, making jokes with Natalie and Patricia, when she suddenly got the surprise of her life. Riel stood still, frozen. Her eyes widened, because she would never expect to see Akio Hinode ever again, even in her thoughts or dreams. Making a Duchenne smile, Akio Hinode approached her desk and said, "You've grown big and wide, Riel. A happy mama soon." Riel seemed to shed a tear. She never expected to see Akio again. "What brings you here again, Akio? You said you would never return. Am I not welcome anymore, Riel? Could I not visit an old friend?" Akio replied in a sad tone. Riel made a gesture to Akio, telling him to come closer. When Akio leaned forward, Riel hugged him tightly, a bead of tears flowing from her eyes. "It's so nice to have you back, Akio. I missed my good friend." Akio let Riel hug him, while his hands were on the tabletop, and said, "I missed you too. I am so happy to see you." Getting away from her hug, and looking at her belly, he continued, I never imagined how sexy you could be as pregnant. You're even more beautiful and glowing." Riel smirked and said, "You men are good liars, aren't you? How could I be beautiful and sexy when my tummy was so bloated bigger than a balloon?" She pushed her tummy up front, and everyone laughed. "Could I take you out today, Riel? We have many things to catch up with. Maybe after work?" asked Akio with hesitance. "Why not? I will be free a few hours from now," Riel said assuringly. Akio left with a hopeful heart, and as he walked away from the bank, he could still recall her face, the way she looked at him with a bead of tears flowing from her eyes. "Oh, how I missed her," he whispered as he sighed. Akio came back after a few hours of waiting. He stood by the exit glass door, and happiness was written all over his face when Riel appeared by the door. Akio held her arms to assist her, and couldn't help but feel the joy he felt at that moment. But then, he felt troubled. "Doesn't Hayuaniki pick you up at this hour?" Riel Akio curiously asked. "He does. Or Junie, I told him. I am going out with friends tonight." Then he agreed. "I can always take a cab home whenever I want to have dinner with Natalie or Patricia." Akio disapproved of Hayuaniki's leniency towards Riel's night out with friends. He had many cars. Why couldn't he let his driver pick you up whenever you're out with friends? Why let you take a cab? What if something bad happened to you on the way home? I couldn't believe this. Riel looked at him pleasingly and remarked, "It was my idea, Akio. I can manage. I am not a disabled person to be cared for, and I am not the only pregnant woman capable of doing what I do. Take it easy, okay?" Akio frowned. "Promise me that if ever you would gallivant around with your big belly, kindly tell your chauffeur to pick you up, and be persistent, because I could not forgive your husband if something bad happens to you. Get that?" Riel, she was surprised at Akio's so much concern for her. "Chill, Akio. You even beat my husband with worry. Come on. Is this what we will talk about all night? I thought we had many things to catch up on." Akio smiled, apologized, and asked, "Are you still picky with food?" Riel looked at him, wondering, "How do you know I am still picky with food? Aren't all pregnant women? Come on, tell me, what do you want to eat?" I feel like eating noodles. How about Chinese cuisine?" "So Chinese cuisine we go," Akio deadpanned. They came to a posh Chinese restaurant, and while Akio was parking his car, Junie was standing by a coconut tree when he spotted Akio assisting Riel out of the vehicle. He got nervous and seemed to freak out, but he kept hiding so he won't be seen. Akio and Riel were happily chatting as they went inside the restaurant. The receptionist, dressed in Chinese attire, greeted them and led them to a cozy corner with a table for two. Earlier that day, before banking hours closed, Riel called Hayuaniki about her plan to go out with friends. He quickly said yes, and he suggested taking a cab on her way home, because he would have a dinner meeting with the corporate officials, and he might come home late. At the restaurant, as Akio and Riel was about to take their seats, Hayuaniki could be seen leading a woman to her chair chivalrously, his hand holding her back so close to his body. They were so happy together, and he grabbed her hand on the table while chatting. This scene did not escape Riel's sight. She was stunned and felt cheated, having seen Hayuaniki holding the woman's arms gently. She was furious. She was about to walk to them, when Akio held her hand and told her to take it easy. Riel swayed Akio's grasp and walked straight to Hayuaniki's table. While she was on the way to where Hayuaniki was, the lady he was with stood up and asked to be excused. Riel came closer, stood there, and paused, waiting for her presence to be known, while Akio stood further away to avoid making a scene. and as Hyun-ki turned his face to look at the person standing by them, he got startled. So, this meeting was with your corporate officials? Hyun-ki flinched nervously. Hyun-ki was speechless. He felt flabbergasted, nervous, and was about to follow Riel, who ran away hastily from them. He caught on Riel, while Akio was following behind, silently observing. Riel was crying heavily by the corner outside the restaurant. He was about to explain when Riel slapped him hard. Riel could not say anything but slap Hyun-ki in the face. He was about to grab Riel by her arms, when Akio came between them and shielded Riel. I won't do that if I were you, Hyun-ki, warned Akio. What is this? You are dating too? Asked Hyun-ki angrily. Akio stared at Hyun-ki harshly, and without words, he took Riel away from Hyun-ki and brought her to his vehicle. Riel was crying so hard, which made Akio so worried. Riel, please stop it now. He's not worth crying for. Remember that child in your womb. Think of the child's well-being. The more you should take care of it, for that baby is the only thing that's left for you now. That child is your strength and your weapon against Hyun-ki. Don't get defeated because of his promiscuity. He was a ladies' man before you came to know him, and that's what he will always be. You cannot change that, but you can fight him for your child's sake. Riel mellowed, and her cries became muffled sobs. All Akio could do was commiserate her feelings at the moment. He felt so bad for Riel, yet he couldn't do anything. While watching Riel up close, something came to his mind. Riel, if ever you decide something legal, let me know. I will always be here to help you. At all costs, I will protect you, including that child in your womb. Riel stared at Akio inquisitively, and kept quiet for a while. If this woman won't let him go, maybe I would go legal. But I'll be glad to hear him out, and maybe give him a chance. He is still my husband, the father of this child, and I will fight for him. Riel was determined. Akio smiled and said, That's my girl. That is your right, but if things worsen, I am here to take your side. I guess my stay here will take more than expected and I couldn't leave a friend in need. Riel was surprised. You mean, you intend only to stay here momentarily, and then leave again, for good? That's what I am supposed to tell you. If your horrific encounter with your husband didn't happen. Anyway, I was supposed to stay here for a few months, just for a vacation and oversee my office here. I came here for 3 purposes, anyway. First, to take a 3-month hiatus and visit you. Second, to manage my office for the time being. Third, I am waiting for the projects to come through, and these will happen here in this country. Still, the projects will be done somewhere other than this city. Akio stared at Riel longer. Then he said, Wherever my projects be, I will always be within your reach. Riel, I won't leave you alone. Meanwhile, at Hyun-ki's dating, the lady, Rosemary, returned, and she was all smiles when he noticed Hyun-ki's reddened cheeks. What happened, Hyun? Why were your cheeks red? Were you slapped? By whom? She got curious. Was my face red? That was impossible. Was I waiting here for you, and my face was red already? It must be because I'm excited to be with you. Hyun-ki looked at her romantically. Rosemary giggled and said, You were a hopeless romantic, weren't you? Hyun-ki stared at her and clasped her hand. Rosemary pulled her hand from Hyun-ki's grasp and said, Don't do that. There might be people who knew you. Hyun-ki smiled at her sweetly and said, If you feel uneasy and nervous about being seen here with me, I suggest we go to another place where we could be alone together. Rosemary looked at him and replied, Let's go to my place then. I could cook for you. My husband and in-laws love my cooking, you know. Hyun-ki lit up and stood hastily, grabbed her hand, and said, Then, what are we waiting for? He took out his wallet, put some money on the table for their pre-ordered food, and left briskly. They ran to the parking area, and Junie quickly opened the car door. Speed up, Junie, we're so much in a hurry. The couple was laughing as they gasped for air. Where to, sir? Asked Junie. Drop us at her house. Rose was her neighbor, Hyun-ki answered. Junie was silent. He glanced at the rearview mirror, looking at them flirting. Junie felt angry within, sympathizing with Riel, and his driving was distracted because of brewing anger and hatred within him. Hyun-ki noticed his careless driving and reprimanded him. What's the matter, Junie? I'm sorry, sir. There was a dog that jumped suddenly on the road. Junie lied, toning his feeling of dismay over his boss. Well, you better be careful. And also, leave the car when we get there, and you can walk home. And this is just a simple warning. Junie, Keep your mouth shut. Was I clear? Hyunki warned severely. My loyalty is with you, sir. Nothing to worry about, replied Junie confidently. Junie felt split between the two colliding rocks and feared he would be in chaos. For whose loyalty would he choose to stand for, Hyunki or Riel?